I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Cruton.
The delay's back. This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. See his fine work at texasfootball.com/recruiting. And, of course, this segment is brought to you by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Chicken Express. I ate it this weekend, and it was great.
Ringing endorsement.
It's about,
never disappoints. Chicken Express never disappoints.
That's a good one.
That is good, and it's very true. Like, you... I'm not going to mention any other names. I'm just going to say you go some places, and it can be inconsistent. Chicken Express, you're getting all-out effort. That motor's always running. It's a high-effort place. The motor's always running. You know what you're getting from Chicken Express every single time.
You want to know the most undervalued thing about Chicken Express is the cleanliness of the restaurants. I mean, this place is spectacularly clean every time I go in.
Dude, that's true.
And, chicken's like a greasy meal too. Like, it's not something it would be easy for that to be really kind of
gross,
grimy. You sit in at the table and you go, "Ooh, that's not clean," but it's not.
No.
Good calling out.
It's always very clean.
Good idea, Powers.
Go eat inside
Chicken Express. The more Chicken Express, the more we talk about it, the more boxes it checks. I mean, it just checks all the boxes.
Speaking of checking all the boxes, let's talk about some recruits who check all the boxes in This Week in Recruiting. Thank you. We will start with our prospect on the rise. Our prospect on the rise, we've talked a lot about how good the class of 2022 in quarterbacks is in the state of Texas. Let's talk about the class of 2023 and the quarterback Weston Smith from Colleyville Heritage, who is suddenly shooting up recruiting charts thanks to what he did in California at Steve Clarkson's QB retreat out there in California. He was named one of the top underclassmen at this event, and as a result, Florida State has extended an offer. This does not. I think, folks, this is one of those guys that just now we're kind of people are getting the dirt, getting the dust off of him, and realizing, oh man, taking an actual look at him and saying this Weston Smith kid's going to be a name to know for the next 2 seasons.
A true prospect on the rise because, like you said, no one really knows about him. He moved to Texas from Nevada, and he's going to be playing, the 2021 season at Colleyville Heritage. How about that day when you're Kirk Martin, you wake up and you find out you're going to get a 6'5", 215-pound quarterback transfer. He's walking through your halls. And, oh, by the way, he's good enough to play at Florida State. Yeah, okay, I'll take one of those, please. I think that Colleyville Heritage is going to be a pretty salty team on the field this season. And Weston is a guy who, I read the report from Greg Biggins, a former colleague of mine at 24/7 Sports, a guy who you can trust when it comes to quarterback evaluations. He was one of the founders or one of the originators in the Elite 11 and the Nike Camp back when all that first started up. So he knows what he's looking at whenever it comes to quarterback talent. And he had glowing reports about Weston as a guy to really keep an eye on, one of the top underclassmen there in a collection of quarterbacks from around the country. So this is going to be an exciting guy, not only for people in the DFW to watch next season, but across the state.
Yeah, most certainly, and a guy who I think has a really high ceiling. And here's the other thing about it is you mentioned Kirk Martin. He's landing there at Colleyville Heritage, where Kirk Martin's going to get to work with them. This is a guy who knows a little something about quarterbacks, and he's not going to miss an opportunity to help develop him. This is a guy. Look at those splits, my God! But this is a guy who I think is going to be a name to know here in the DFW Metroplex, and could be one of those guys that, again, because of he moved in, people may not know him, but is probably going to become a name people know here pretty quick. So that is our prospect on the rise. Let's move on to our commit of the week. Our commit of the week. Last week we had to dig deep into the archives to find a commit of the week. We actually have a commit of the week. And it is Clear Lake quarterback Julian Humphrey. He has committed to Florida. Had offers from all over the place, including A&M, LSU, Penn State, USC. This is a guy that Clear Lake uses all over the field. You project him to stick at the cornerback spot and head into the SEC to play for the Gators.
And this was one of those guys when he first arrived on the scene, he was playing a lot more wide receiver because he's fast and he has good size. I think that he was in our DCTF Rising top 25 for the class of 2022 a couple of Decembers ago. So he's a guy who we've had on our radar for a while because he has the bloodlines of, you know, a top prospect. His brother John Humphrey was at Arizona State and Nevada. And, you know, Jordan Humphrey was also a standout in high school. So he's a kid who knows what it takes to be successful. And those younger brothers, man, they're always the ones who have that little bit of extra go juice in them because they have to keep up with their big brothers. And he's extremely athletic, you know, at 6'1", 6 foot, 180, 185 pounds. He's not only a guy with, you know, 10.55, 100 meter speed. He has clocked in at a 21.17 200 meter, but he's also a 20.5 and a half long jump guy too. So, I mean, he's a guy who really is super athletic and rangy within that frame, and Florida's been able to come in and get one of the Lone Star State's gems. Now, he has committed to Florida, but he does have eyes on official visits to Texas A&M and Penn State, so maybe this one isn't all the way settled yet. There are still going to be schools that have a chance to get him on campus, and he's going to take a look at some of those schools. But things obviously feeling pretty good in Gatorland to have a 4-star commitment from Texas and Julian Humphrey.
Yeah, most certainly. Big time get there for the Gators as they haul in Julian Humphrey out of the Houston area at Clear Lake. We're talking This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers and Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Let's go to Underclassmen of the Week. Our Underclassmen of the Week going to move back up to the DFW Metroplex to the private school ranks. Fort Worth All Saints. You guys are never going to believe this, but Fort Worth All Saints has another stud. This one is their 2023 wide receiver, Chris Palfreeman. And he is a guy who has been shooting up the charts recently, a guy that everybody's paying attention to suddenly. He just picked up an offer from Texas. He's already got offers from A&M, North Texas, Baylor, SMU, and it feels like this has all come in a flurry recently. Is there a reason why Chris Palfreeman is out of Fort Worth All Saints is suddenly becoming that name to know?
He's fast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, helps.
10.54 100-meter speed guy. And, you know, once you start to have your speed verified and you can bring a skill set to the table, you know, I think he had like 900 receiving yards and 500 rushing yards last season playing at Brock. Mm-hmm. Once you have the tape and then the verified speed, I think things are going to start to take off for you. This is, you know, we've talked about these recruitments in the past. This one is opposite of some. He seems like all the in-state schools are coming after him, while the out-of-state schools are lagging behind. He's got Baylor, North Texas, SMU, A&M, and now Texas. And his other 3 offers are Kansas, Pittsburgh, and UCF. So not your traditional recruiting story. Usually you'll see, you know, Texas or Texas A&M or Baylor coming after a guy. Then you see Oklahoma State and Oklahoma and Ole Miss and, you know, Arizona State and all these schools really trying to get in the mix. But this is a guy that in-state schools have identified early and have really been recruiting heavily. So that's something different that we don't see every time we talk about one of these kids who are on the blow up.
Yeah, a guy certainly to keep an eye on it, and maybe people don't know that he had transferred, but yeah, from Brock over to Fort Worth All Saints, he is going to be a star there for the Saints there. Finally, let's round it all out with our Recruit of the Week. Our Recruit of the Week is defensive. Well, let's talk about this. It's an assistant coach. It's an assistant coach. We're going to talk about David Hicks. David Hicks has changed jobs, and you know we keep up with all the coaching changes around here on TexasFootball.com, but we don't dive into the assistant coaching change, because if we were to do that, Matt Stepp's head would explode. There's too many, okay? But one of them that happened is David Hicks has left his position at Katie Morton Ranch and is heading to Allen. Going to go be on the staff there. Coach Chad Morris is assembling his staff. We've already talked about bringing in David Branscombe to be their defense coordinator. They've hired South Lake Carroll's offense coordinator, et cetera. Building the staff. Of note for David Hicks is he has a son, and his son
is a big one.
Is a 2023 defensive end, DJ Hicks. He is also heading as you would imagine, to go play for Allen. This is certainly a pretty big get here for Allen High, in the sense that there are a number of recruiting services that have him as a 5-star defensive end. And when you watch the tape, it's easy to see why.
Yeah, DJ Hicks is a freak. And this is a true 1-2 punch for Allen, because I've known David Hicks for a few years now, and I think that he's one of the top assistant coaches in the entire state. He's really good on the recruiting trail, really understands recruiting and how to help his players get looks from colleges, which I think is really important. Not that Allen is always going to need a lot of help getting their players looks. I mean, it's like a revolving door for top college programs, but he's a great coach, and he just happens to be the father of one of the top defensive end prospects, not only in the state of Texas, but the entire country. And I'm just looking at the rankings now. Regardless of class, he's going to be one of the top 2 or 3 highest rated defensive linemen in Dallas. You know, you got Amari Aber at Duncanville. You got Bear Alexander over at Fort Worth Brewer now. He's going to be right there in the mix with those guys. He's a bona fide 5-star type of talent. And the one thing that really jumps out to me, and it's going to be an instant game changer for any defense that he plays in, now the Allen defense, his first step quickness is as good as you will see. And I'm trying to think of a name to really compare him to in the Texas ranks, but he's as quick out of the gates as anybody will find. And that makes him a fearsome pass rusher, bringing a different element to the table. He's a guy who can flat out get after the quarterback every snap. And that's something quite different than, you know, your traditional defensive end. He's a pass rushing specialist, and I think that he has a chance to one day be making a lot of money in the NFL, chasing around some of the top quarterbacks.
So, Powers, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about today. Today, for those who don't know, we're recording this on Tuesday, June 1st. Today is the end of the dead period. It has finally ended after 14, let's call it 14 and a half months of the dead period. From your perspective, what has the last, the first few hours of the end of the dead period been like from where you're sitting? Has it been the absolute flurry of activity that you were expecting?
Well, I like to just see things happening. You know, today, as of, it's around 3:30, it's Tuesday afternoon, Texas has extended 4 new scholarship offers. You know, they're probably the most active out of everybody that I've watched today. They've extended an offer to Jaden Allen from Aledo, who's a 2024 kid, who's the younger brother of current commit BJ Allen, who happened to just pick up an offer from Alabama today as well. So Alabama's coming after BJ Allen. So Texas is able to counter that with an offer to his younger brother, who's going to be a bona fide stud. I mean, he's got offers from Texas, LSU, USC. So he's a guy that's really on the rise. They've extended an offer, of course, we talked about it, to Chris Palfreeman. They've extended an offer to Mikkel Harrison, pilot and athlete from Temple. Plays a little quarterback for them, but could really play anywhere on the field. Broke out as a safety for Temple. And they've also extended an offer for Braylon James, the Del Valle wide receiver who was going to play on the same team as Caleb Burton and recently picked up an offer from Ohio State before Caleb moved over to Lake Travis. Now Braylon is going to be the star of that show there. So 4 big offers by Texas, and you're starting to see some big-time schools like Alabama and Clemson stop in and get their fingers in the pie of guys like they offered B.J. Allen an offer from Alabama, and Clemson stepped up with an offer for Anthony Hill. So there's a lot of things going on. You know, I could talk about recruiting all day. Don't get me started, Tepper.
I know. It's a problem, and we've only got forever to talk about it. It's Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Hey, Powers, do you have any guesses on who's on the cover? Don't answer that, actually. Don't answer that.
I thought it was Ashley Pickle.
Yeah, that's what's up.
We'll see you next week.